Hello there, welcome back to the eLearning Champion podcast. Let's explore the emerging trends, strategies, and inspiring success stories that transform the landscape of digital learning. In today's episode, we are taking a look inside the CEO mindset 10 questions on world class leadership. Understanding the CEO mindset is essential for modern learning and development professionals as it helps align training initiatives with organizational goals. This alignment not only boosts leadership capabilities but also fosters a culture of continuous learning, empowering L&D professionals to contribute to a resilient and high performing workforce. Joining me today for an intriguing session is Andrea Petrone. Andrea is a trusted advisor to Fortune 500 companies and high growth businesses worldwide. With over 2 decades of experience, he has helped CEOs and leadership teams navigate challenges and drive high performance, particularly during times of uncertainty. Having lived and worked in 7 countries, Andrea has valuable insights into leading international teams. His transition from corporate leadership to coaching has made him a top ranked executive coach, guiding over 250 leaders to achieve breakthrough results in leadership and organizational culture. As a keynote speaker and podcast host of the World Class Leaders Show, he inspires thousands with his insights on leadership and cultural change. Andrea is also launching WCL21, a global platform for CEOs to connect, learn, and drive performance together. Welcome on board, Andrea. We are glad to have you speak to us today.
Hi, Sharna. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So thank you for inviting me.
Now, before we dive in, dear listeners, make sure you will never miss an episode packed with valuable tips by subscribing to us. Now, let's lead the way. Andrea, you've spent decades working with CEOs and senior leadership teams. From your perspective, what separates good leaders from world class leaders today?
Yeah. So, just with this question, we can stay for we can have a conversation for an hour, even more than an hour. But if I summarize what, in my experience, what I noticed working with these leaders was the main difference is, I would say there are three things that are really different. So one is the clarity about what aspiring future needs to be created for the entire organizations. So, and I wouldn't take that for granted or as an easy thing, because most of the leaders, they're out there. What they
Right,
do, they're trying to bring a vision that's just an incremental improvement of what is already existing. What I see in the world-class leaders, they create something that is really compelling for people. Is a
right,
vision that's a long-lasting impact on society, on next generation. In other words, it's about legacy. So that's one key element. The second element is they have created a culture where people are so much included into this conversation about bringing the vision to life. They are
right.
included, they're part of, they're excited about it, they're part of the solution. So they are really people leaders, but really bring the people to the core of that vision, of that aspiring future. And three, it's about integrity. The best leaders, the world-class leaders, what they do exactly what they say. And they drive
Right.
the level of integrity across the entire organization, because that is the leverage for performance. Performance happens in organizations, so achieving the vision where people are clear what they have to do, what they say matters, and what they say and what they do is what they say. That is, to me, is the most powerful way to set up yourself as a world-class leader.
Wow, interesting. Now, let's talk about change. What are the biggest struggled what are the biggest struggles new or seasoned CEOs face in leading their companies through complexity and change?
So one is clearly connected to what we said. Without clarity about what's the transformation, what's the vision, what's a compelling vision needs to be created, they are not going to really drive that change for the entire
Right,
organization, because it's not clear where they're heading to. But I think another critical element is what we call the driving engagement and execution. So most of the CEOs I work with, they really struggle to get the most out of their people. They're
right,
complaining, they say, oh, my people, they're not able to bring my vision to life, they're not able to
Right.
execute, they're not engaged. So to me, that is probably the missing link of many leaders. That is the major struggle, a major challenge. Many CEOs, they say that to me in a coaching conversation, in other meeting that we have, is how they can get the most out of people. How can they step up and without being as a CEO too much inside of day to day, so they need to drive
Right.
everything. That is a shift that is required and is clearly is one of the major challenges for transforming an organization.
Wow, interesting. You often talk about mindset and performance in leadership. What are some non negotiable habits you see in the best CEOs that you've coached?
First of all, I would say, as a piece of context, we need to align with the fact that mindset is really the only drive for success. And I know everybody talks about mindset, but the way how we talk about
Right.
mindset is like having a positive mindset or having a growth mindset, having an attitude for it's all valid. But what I'm referring to when I talk about mindset is the ability to shift your perception and
Wow.
shifting other people's perception. So when people start to see something different,
Right.
then they can start to operate in a very different way. That is the leverage for something different. Many leaders, they really live in a mindset where everything is fixed, everything has to be that way. One perception is always the true, the only true. So when you operate in that way, you're not able to see different colors in what is in
Right.
front of you. You cannot see an opportunity out there. So there are a number of limitations that become your own belief in order to achieve something different. So if you really want to disrupt your company, if you want to have success, you have to be willing to consider the idea of thinking and see something different for yourself first, and then drive that sort of shifting in your people. Because we are all human beings, they
Right.
will be driven by same perception or other perception that might be limiting belief in what they can produce. So when people they are operating from a limitation, how they can achieve something different, they can make new actions. That is the shift that is required. It's a paradigm shift. If that happens, you have no idea, Sherna, how many incredible things can be happening made by leaders. So the great enterprises, the great results, the things that we
Yes.
didn't consider were possible, they're just a product of a conversation with possibility where people really started to see something different.
Wow, interesting. Now, coming to your podcast, the World Class Leaders Show. It has featured top executives from across industries. What are some of the most powerful leadership lessons you've learned from your conversations?
Look, there are many conversations at the moment. At the time of this recording, we have, um, and you're a podcast host, so you really understand the
Right.
importance, the power for preparation, for getting the right people in the in
Absolutely.
the, in the conversation, right? So we ran 200 episodes. It's been now
Wow.
most of 3 years, so it's quite a long time that we run the
Yes.
show. And during the time, I've been incredibly surprised and delighted about the quality of leaders we invited, the quality of the conversation. And I can tell you, um, given that the audience, the people that we interview normally are CEOs or people that
Right.
have a critical role in shaping the future society, I would say,
Right.
we go really deeper inside of the war. What does it mean leading and living a life as a leader, as a CEO? And you will be surprised about how many things they share that are less related to process, strategy, planning, or financial return. That is kind of a given. What they're sharing with us, it's a great leadership lesson, is how can you lead an organization when you're not clear what's in the right direction to take?
Wow.
How can you lead an organization when there are so many winds against you and you don't know what to do about it? When there is so
Wow.
much pressure coming from your board, right? Pressure from the
Right.
expectation that people have. So these leaders, they are human beings. Now, you might
Right.
say, because there is an ongoing conversation, is an endless conversation about, well, the CEOs are paid so much, so they should be able to do X, Y, Z. Well, that's one way of seeing things, and I'm
Right.
not saying right or wrong, But what people tend to disregard is the fact that these leaders are human beings and they have
Right.
their own internal challenges, struggles, lack of confidence, you know, thinking about how can I lead this organization with all the pressure? How can I stay calm and confident when things are not going right? All these
Right.
internal tension and struggles and challenges, they are so uh, top of mind for people, but they don't necessarily share it. They don't share it openly because they don't want to, they can't. What I
Right.
think, right? What I think is important to me consider is, and by the way, inside of that is an implication of their mental and physical health. What's the
Correct.
implication of this pressure to their life, to the family, to their relationship? That is really some of the things that people they don't consider is the implication of all of that to them as an individuals. So you will be surprised if you have an opportunity or you want people in the audience to listen to the podcast, you will see how vulnerable are these leaders and sharing
Mm.
openly what they're going through. It's just fascinating because it just gives you a different lens, different view about a CEO, about their life, which again is not normally something that comes in the headlines in the social
Right.
media, etc. Because we always very negative or very brutal or very biased about the CEOs, overpaid, a lot
Correct.
of benefits, all of that. In some cases, it's totally right, but there is just a different side that is worth considering, and that's what shows up in this conversation.
Wow, interesting. Now, in the same line, many CEOs say strategy execution is their biggest frustration, like you mentioned earlier. Often CEOs have a complaint that their teams are not able to bring their ideas to life. So, why do so many organizations fail at this? And how do you help leaders close that gap?
So many organizations are facing the same challenge, and we covered earlier that is one of the major constraints of many CEOs and leaders, and it's valid.
Right.
And if I tell you what I think is the my own interpretation, having done a lot of work in this area, is people is either they are not compelled or inspired
Right.
by that vision, that strategy needs to be created, or
Right.
they're not clear how they can bring that strategy forward. So one very common gap, I would say, in all the strategic conversation that happen in organizations is the ability to for people to understand if that is this where we are going, what's going to be our contribution, what's going to be our role.
Right.
People sometimes, most of the time actually, they feel like they are not clear what they have to do, what's expectation on them, and how they can support and contribute to the execution of that vision or the
Right.
strategy. And the third element, which is much more, it's just critical because he has such a important implication to the entire culture of the organization, is people they are unfortunately not engaged and disconnected, so they don't want to contribute. They don't feel like
Correct.
that, right? That matters is important. So they're disconnected. You have no idea, Sharon, how many people. And probably you are aware. I mean, I have a very large following based on LinkedIn. I'm one of the
Right.
major creators. So a lot of people connect with me and they send me daily messages about what whether a post resonated with them, and most of my posts are about engagement, culture,
Engagement.
feeling
Yes.
right. You have no idea how many people send me a message say, sorry, I cannot make a comment here, I cannot like what you say because I'm concerned about how my employer will react, because
Right.
my organization is so toxic. So many people really are right now, and that is a global issue, facing toxicity in the organization. So how can you drive execution when
Correct.
people feel like it's a toxic environment working there? The only way to do it is
Right.
by compliance. They will do, yes, my boss, I will do that setup, but that's not commitment. That is
Correct.
compliance.
Right.
And that doesn't lead to powerful execution because people
Yes.
they're not engaged.
Correct. Interesting. Now, you recently launched WCL 21, a new CEO ecosystem. What inspired you to create it, and what do you see as its unique role in the leadership space?
Yeah, that connects perfectly with what I said before in terms of what is emerging from these conversations, from my work one-to-one we do with the CEO,
Right.
is the fact that they feel really isolated. They don't feel like they can
Exactly.
speak
Yes.
openly and transparent with everybody. And not because they don't trust people, it's just because you can't say everything that you want. And that's one thing. The second thing is these CEOs are all people that are very well educated. They're people that maybe they went to the business school. They had 30 years of experience or whatever. They know their stuff. They know
Right.
what is required. But the challenge they have, given that they're living most of their time in the corporate, in their company, like in the bubble, what is missing for them is what is happening in other organizations, what other CEOs are doing here and there. How can they, because given that they're facing similar issues, how can they
Right.
deal with X and Y, Z? So the reason why I created this is giving them an opportunity to come together, learn from me, from my experience, but most importantly, learn from each other and say, what are insights? What are some new ideas I did not consider before? So that's
Right.
another element. Second is to my early point, is not feeling isolated. They have now finally an inner circle they can talk to open and transparent because there are no repercussion, there is no judgment, there is no implication on the organization. So these are
Right.
the two major elements. And the third element is creating networking relationship. People want to really create a relationship for long. I've seen leaders, spending this time together and then stay forever as a friend, etc. So I think it's an opportunity for a group of leaders. Is selected primarily is for mid-sized to large organization. They are not served traditionally in other way because the founder environment, they have a lot of opportunities to connect with each
Right.
other, right? The VCs, the incubator, the accelerator, whatever. The large company, they have primarily, given a Fortune company, they have a lot of support as a CEOs, a
Right.
lot of support. But there is a huge, huge, large number of leaders. They are living in between. They don't have that level of support,
Correct.
assistance, sounding board, inner circle. So that is the offer. And there's WCL 21 is going to tackle that specific issue. And how will it show up will be a number of different ways for people, leaders, to connect with each other. One is the podcast. One is there
Right.
will be CEO roundtables. There will be a retreat. There will be company visits, maybe, I don't know, in China or Japan to learn from other companies. It's a number of different opportunities for people to learn, get connected, work
Wow.
together. So that is the scope of WCL 21. And WCL
Wow.
stands for World Class Leader, which is
World class
connected to the
leader.
podcast name.
Yes, absolutely. That's very interesting. Now, coming to a similar line, how do you balance being a trusted coach behind the scenes with building a visible platform like WCL for leaders through your podcast and community? I understand it's a lot of work, and like you mentioned, the vision is very broad. And of course, how do you balance this?
It's a good point. And I also work with a consulting company in the US, one of the leading company in the space of mindset and leadership performance called J&W. And they takes a lot of my time because that's what I spend time with, working with CEOs and their leaders. Look, I think it's a matter of keeping. First of all, it's all about sanity, mental sanity. Make sure that
Right.
you do what matters, you do what makes impact, and you do what you are committed to in the first place. I'm committed to help CEOs to leave an extraordinary legacy. That's what I'm committed to. So
Right.
whatever work that is inside of that commitment, I'm very happy to make it, to do it. While if I see people that are not committed, people that not want to build a legacy, want to drive maybe P&L improvement tomorrow morning, I'm not interested. That's not what the work I do.
Right.
And again, look, the WCL 21, the podcast, that is to me is a way to serve a community. So I value spending time with a community versus just working, with CEOs one to one. So it's finding a balance, but the whole thing's connected to my vision of
Right.
leaving a legacy for people. It's all connected, and it sounds like a lot of work, but it's fun. It's amazing. That's what I enjoy doing because I know that matters to people.
Wow, interesting. So, what coming to CEOs, what misconceptions do people have about the role of a CEO, and how does that impact how they lead or fail to lead their teams?
And I think we touch on it. I think primarily the biggest misconception I would say is that people feel that CEOs has all the answers.
Right,
As CEOs don't have
right,
all the answers. They have no answer at all sometimes.
right.
Um, and I think that is building an unnecessary expectation for
Correct,
them, and also an unnecessary pressure for themselves because they feel like they need to have an answer. To
correct.
me, that is one of the biggest misconceptions. Second is pointing to what I said before. Many CEOs are dealing physically and mentally with their health more than
Right,
people think. Just last year, just for giving context, Shannon, a lot of CEOs in the US they left their job. There was a big shift in the industry. They left their job primarily because they can't cope with the pressure and with the stress that is coming with the role. So the misconception is, people feel like CEOs, they're always calm, they're having a great life, they're enjoying what they're doing, they're going to big, massive PR conference events, private jet, or whatever. But the reality is very different. If that is true for
right,
few CEOs, most of CEOs, they're dealing with the reality of how can I get my business going? How can I get my companies to the next level? How can I meet the board expectations? All of that. And that
correct.
if you consider that has an impact, and that's the third misconception on their confidence. The misconception is CEOs are very confident and they know always what to do. They don't. They
You
don't
don't.
because they're not different than anybody else. But
Correct.
again, it's a misconception that so when I work with CEOs, we really work around these three areas with them, but also with their teams, because the teams need to appreciate it that if that is the situation, they need to step up. They need to
Right.
step up in support of CEO versus just waiting and reacting to what the CEO wants to do or what decision he makes, because they might be wrong. So
Correct.
it's taking ownership and responsibility. Don't let the CEO take it the entire of that.
Right. So, looking ahead, what skills or qualities will CEOs need the most to thrive in the next decade?
So this is a great question. I think for me it would be the ability to live in the ambiguity that is coming to them, meaning not always having the perfect solution, not having the
Right.
perfect information in the market, not understanding what's going to happen tomorrow, not even in 6 months, but even tomorrow. So how can you lead an organization into the future with a level of
Right.
uncertainty? And to me, that is mastery. It requires mastery in the way how you lead yourself first and how you
Right.
lead your people. And some leaders, they really fail on that because they can't see they can't see something as a possibility until things get clear. And that leads
Right.
them to a little bit of paralysis analysis, not being disruptive, working on a status quo, all of the things that are not producing a very compelling future. So to me, that is ambiguity, dealing with uncertainty, be really agile mentally about what is
Mentally.
required.
Yes.
There's not agility in the process, it's agility mentally how to make that happen. And then really be a great people leader. So somebody really cares about your people because
Correct.
you will never get far without that.
Wow. Yes. So now a special question for our listeners. So for our listeners who aspire to become CEOs, future leaders, or better leaders, what's one piece of advice you'd give them to start applying right now?
So I would say the most important thing for me is start challenging your experience, start
Wow.
challenging what you went through, start challenging everything that is coming your way. Because if you start challenging your own thinking, you can immediately start to see something different for yourself.
Right.
So, and and that's something that doesn't happen often, especially with the very senior leaders, CEOs. Unfortunately, they live with the perception that they know everything and they know exactly how to do X, Y, Z. That to me is a sign of our confidence, you can say, but if you look at on the other side, you might also say that is one of the most challenging and risky blind spot that the leader can have. Because
Right.
whenever I hear a leader say, I get this, I know how to do it, I'm starting to be worried. Because that implies that they are not seeing potential blind spots in their work, and there is no blind spot, there are no gaps. Something is missing. I
Right.
can't, I can't believe that people don't live in a gap. Everybody, from the president of a big country to an employees in the front line, everybody has a gap
Correct.
in ourselves, in the way they show up, the way we work. Without gaps, there is no improvement. There is no opportunity to make something different. So those leaders, they live with an ego and with a level of certainty about themselves. To me, it's a risky business for themselves.
Right. Wow. And this brings us to the end of another insightful episode of the eLearning Champion podcast. By recognizing CEOs' challenges and priorities, L&D teams can create training programs that enhance agility, drive performance, and support strategic execution. We've covered a lot today, from having how to tackle lack of clarity and getting to frame ourselves into the CEO mindset. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing your thoughts and insights with us.
Thank you, Shana, for inviting me. I hope that was useful. And of course, please follow me on LinkedIn and follow the show, the World Class Leader Show. Subscribe. It's on YouTube, it's on Apple, Spotify, whatever works for you as a format. But just do it because I think you will be inspired by these conversations.
Absolutely. I'm sure our listeners will take you World Class Leader Show. That's the podcast name to search for. Remember, becoming an e-learning champion is a journey of continuous learning and sharing. So do take a moment to share, follow, comment, and connect with us on a platform of your choice. Find CommLab India on LinkedIn for the latest trends and insights on all things e-learning. Thank you so much for tuning in to the e-learning champion podcast. Keep innovating, keep inspiring, and keep championing.